Well, we have a fast track countdown. I suspect we are actually live. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Ascension Astrology. My name is Janet Hickox, and I'm an intuitive astrologer, human design consultant, and a Gene Keys ambassador. And sitting to my left or right, I'm not sure how this shows up, is the alchemist. I love that. Kornelia Stephanie. How are you this afternoon, Kornelia?
I'm excited to be here, Janet. I'm excited to be on this show today and continue the conversation that we started last week when we were talking about emotional mastery. So I'm looking forward to seeing where we're going to end up today in this talk.
We always end up somewhere. And it's weird because today, we're not sitting next to one another. And that's owing to the fact I'm in the midst of this crunch writing for the almanac, the energy almanac for 2020. And just having that extra hour that I would have been on the road getting to your house and setting up and what have you, I was able to at least punch out half of July. So it was very helpful to me to be able to do it this way today. But it feels weird not having, our bodies right next to one another in the broadcast.
I know, because it's been so great being able to do these shows together, because you have your radio podcast, your Meta Cafe that you're doing every day, and then I have my radio podcast, and everything's always online. And it was really fun, being able to do this broadcast with you together in the studio, in our little studio, right, when we're together. And eventually that's what we're going to have, an even greater studio. But right now, this is how we're starting. And I totally understand today and right now we're crunch time. We're completing a lot of different projects. You are, I am, and I know a lot of other people are too, so that we can really be of service to the Awakening Collective, the people that are now really waking up and that are looking for tools, that are looking for resources, that are looking for support. And that's the reason why you and I are doing these shows.
Yeah. And, to your point about last week, we started a conversation about emotional mastery. And we talked about the different ways in which emotions play out in our world. And I want to be able to pick up sort of where we left off, but maybe we need to review a bit about emotional mastery. Can you give us a definition, Kornelia, about what that means to you in particular? And because I like your definition of it.
Okay. Well, the emotional mastery, what does that really mean? That really, again, it means that we are masters of our emotions, which means that we are taking full responsibility for our feelings, taking full responsibility when we get triggered by something, by an event, a person, a thing. We get triggered, and then when we look at the trigger, we look and see what this is about for us. And we decide that, we do the work. We do the emotional processing. We look at what are the feelings that this event is triggering in me. What is it that I'm releasing and letting go of from the old energy? And what is it that I really want to experience today? And we talked about, the process of how it all works, because if you remember, I shared the story about how I had a bully living in my house. Yes. And how I was really, really triggered emotionally when I asked him to move out because he was bullying me and my roommate. And then he told me I couldn't make him. And I was sharing how every single bullet, like thousands of inner bullets were going off inside of me at that time, that would trigger me emotionally. And, in the old world, we would bark back, we would fight back, and we would say things and do things that we normally, that we might not mean, but we would create drama. And so part of our awakening modern day this day is to be masters of our emotions and be awake to the fact that when we get triggered by anything outside of ourselves, there's always healing. There's always something that this event is showing us. And that is to release an old energy. And generally, I find when it's anger, and when we're angry about something, underneath that anger, if we really go and look at what am I really angry about, most of the time you're going to find that underneath that anger, that there's a feeling of powerlessness. That
Right,
you feel,
right.
There's a feeling of powerlessness, and you feel powerless to do something about whatever is occurring. So what is anger good for? I see this a lot. As a matter of fact, this past week, I've talked to several people, and people don't want to admit they have anger. They still think that anger is wrong or bad, when actually anger is good. What do you think about that, Janet?
I think you're right. A lot of people do have this sort of, it's like it's politically correct or something to not be angry or to not be upset. But we genuinely feel anger and upset over things. And I, like you, sort of look at those emotions when they pop up as a call for me to dig deeper, to look, under the surface to see what it is that is triggering that anger. And a lot of times it's something that's come up from the past, or it's exactly what you were saying, and it's about being powerless. And you know what? In saying that, you just helped me crystallize something in my own mind about what I'm experiencing this week as I'm pushing into the part of astrology in 2020 that is extremely upsetting. And it could be, I could use several different words. I could use dangerous, I could use upsetting, I could use catalyzing, catastrophe, catastrophic. There are a lot of different words I could use. And I feel like I've been living in that energy. And then when I come back out of it, like today, to get back online here with you to do the show, I have to shed sort of that feeling and remind myself that is potential. It isn't the real. And yet those are valid feelings that I'm feeling, right? It may not be based in a positive or something that's happened yet, but in looking at the potential for something. What the word is that I think I'm really feeling is overwhelm. How does that play into emotions?
Well, yeah, overwhelm is a big part of it. And especially like part of the reason why I wanted to talk about emotional mastery, Janet, is because you're sitting there and you're looking at the almanac for next year, 2020. And you and I have had a show, I think about a month or so ago, maybe before you went on vacation, where we talked about 2020 and the preparation that right now we are literally in preparation towards that time period. And we are really being pushed by the universal energies right now to purge our physical bodies of this anger and claim our inner sovereignty and claim our inner power, because we're not victims. That's the whole point. And especially right now with Mars, the warrior god in Cancer, the home, the feeling, this can bring up angry feelings inside of you. And what I'm finding when I'm like talking to clients and people is that they don't even realize they're angry. They're holding the energy inside their bodies, and it can manifest this way. Anxiety, it can manifest like severe anxiety. It can manifest in panic attacks where suddenly you're going down the rabbit hole. It can manifest in back pain. It can manifest in heartache, whatever, because think about this. The energy of anger, when you're holding that energy inside your body and you're holding on to it and you're not processing it and you're not clearing it out and you're not investigating it, it's going to do havoc in your body. Just the same way that if you were to take the anger and throw something or hit someone or yell at somebody, that kind of energy inside your body has the ability to create havoc in your body. And that's why I wanted to bring this topic up. And I want us to keep talking about emotional mastery and Mars in Cancer and those feelings and all that. Yeah. Because this is going to, I want people to be able to feel okay. Like if you're pissed off and if you're angry, great. Let's find out why. What's underneath there? What are you feeling? What are you releasing? I feel not heard. I feel not valued. I feel not appreciated. I feel not honored. I feel stepped on. I feel used. I feel abandoned. I feel betrayal. Whatever it may be, bring those feelings up into your awareness. And then look at, now what do you want? Because once you release the feelings of anger, here's the way that it works for me, and the way that I feel that emotion works. When we first get angry, we have to first let that anger out. And once we let the anger out, sometimes we're going to start crying, like maybe the next day, where we're really moving into more of a feminine part, where we're gonna cry and we're gonna release. But first we're angry, and then tears come, right?
Yeah.
And more of the feminine part. And I'm not saying that the men shouldn't cry, because it's absolutely perfect for men to cry, but it's part of that emotion that is now really, really being released through the feminine energy of nurturing and release and letting go and releasing, right? So that is really right now where we need to pay attention to the inner investigation, processing your emotions, because what we want to do is we want to be able to not get triggered by events that are happening outside of ourselves, and that we know how to respond. Janet, we know how to respond, right? So that instead of projecting the energy out onto, like I said last week, when that man in my house told me that I can't make him move out, I stood there and really in my mastery. But at the time, I wasn't thinking that I'm in my mastery. But I'm in there, and I looked at him and I said, "We're going to see about that." And then I turned around and walked away. And then I went to go process and get rid of my anger. And I was really, really angry because I was shaking. I was so angry. That's how I felt, right? And then once I got all that powerlessness and that anger out of my body, then I was able to sit down with myself and say, now, Kornelia, what do you want? And what I wanted was, yeah, you're going to need to move out. So then when I went back to him, from a place of empowerment. And that's what I want y'all to do. Release the energy of anger, release the feelings of whatever it is that you're angry about, sad about, mad about, whatever it is. And once you get it all out of your body, scream, yell, do whatever you need to do, not at other people, with your don't important piece, right? And then come back and then go have the conversations with people that you need to have from a place of empowerment. And they're going to feel that, because they're going to go, wow, you're not bullying, you're not threatening, you're just clear and confident.
And this is profound. And I was sort of thinking about this whole idea of tears, and almost every time I have gotten really angry, tears have come at the same time.
That's how it works for you. That's good to know.
And almost always. And that anger that I feel is often exactly because of powerlessness. I would never have been able to put that word to it, I don't think, Kornelia, except for your explanation of what went on with you and that roommate. And so many times, things feel like they are out of your control. Right? That you can't control what's going on in the government. You can't control how other people are treating you, or you can't control how much business you're getting or how much business you're not getting. Or sometimes we feel like, no matter what we're doing, our health suffers. And every one of those things I can trace back, as I think about them, to a point of powerlessness. And I think that's a big theme, I think, for a lot of people. I want to read you a couple of comments going on out here, because people are, I don't know, you can't see them today because we're not sitting there. But people are kind of pointing out that anger has a purpose as well.
Absolutely.
Anger harnessed can be a great power to strive harder. Somebody said anger is fine. Now I don't see where that is. And I kind of think that same thing because it's a huge tell. It tells you where you're out of alignment with something, where your emotional energy is clouding what's really going on. And so that process of self-inquiry that you're talking about is so important, I think, in the grand things.
I mean, here's my book, Janet. Can you see it?
Yeah, peace. The flip side to anger, I believe, is what it says.
Yeah, peace, the flip side to anger, how I used my emotions to heal my life and my body, and how you can too. And you can get this book on Amazon, by the way. And, when I talk about the guy, my roommate at that time, I wrote this book back in 2014. And sure enough, I talk about it in this, the roommate is in the book, because it was during that time when I was looking to really embody peace and understand peace. I was able to see, okay, now all of a sudden I came in contact with my anger, because in my home is a very peaceful sanctuary, very quiet, very calm. But now all of a sudden I have a bully in my house and I'm fucking pissed off. Excuse me, right?
Yeah.
I'm pissed, because I have this guy here, and I was able to really get in contact with my anger. And this helped me write this book, this situation. And this is what I said about anger. Although anger can be destructive, it's also a potent tool. As long as anger is not expressed in destructive ways, getting to the root of our anger is the key for our personal liberation. And why is that? You said it, Janet. You said it quite a few times. Powerlessness. And it's because we are not victims. But in our old humanity, when we've walked in our shadow, and when we're in our shadow self, we're acting like we're powerlessness, because we still have those feelings that are being triggered by an event that we haven't gained emotional mastery over. And we're and that's the part where we're still feeling powerless. And that's what we're releasing. Because the truth is that we are sovereign beings. We are empowered creators. At the same time, we're still releasing the old shadow, the old human, letting go of the victimhood, letting go of the betrayals, letting go of the abandonment. When was it? Was that yesterday? I think it was. I was leading a call on my Wealthy Roots Women's Leadership Mastermind that I lead every 2 weeks. And on that call, I was talking to the women about how I used to have self-hatred at my core, and how I used to want to commit suicide so many times, and how thankful I am that I never succeeded, but that I cannot to this day anymore relate to any of that pain. That I cannot to this day remember even what it's like to have hated myself, or what it was like to not feel good enough and not be deserving and not be living in the way that I'm living today. That I can't even relate to it anymore, simply because that inner work that you and I are talking about, Janet, of continuously keep bringing the most amazing love that we each are. That's our true divine nature. Every time when you're releasing, letting go of something else, and you bring the love that you are, the love of yourself, the love of your higher power, the love of your God, source, whatever you want to call it, bringing love into that place. And when you keep doing that, bringing the amazing love into the things that hurt you, that you feel abandoned by, that you feel betrayed by, that you feel hate for, whatever it is, forgiveness, all of that, you're going to come to a place where when you're not able to identify with the pain of the past anymore. It's almost like, what it felt like to me is like that was another lifetime ago. Seriously.
Like a story that you read.
Like a story that I read. And nowadays it's like, that was another lifetime ago when I lived that life, but incarnated in this life. Now I've given birth to myself, my true self, and the old self that I used to live in this life has been loved free. and has been loved free by me doing that work and being willing to release all of those old emotions, because again, the power of emotions is the greatest healing modality that there is on this planet. And you know why? Because all of us have it. All of us have it. We have it all inside of ourselves. And that's how I healed myself, by really diving in. You hear me say this a lot, Janet.
Yep. Feel the feeling.
Whenever somebody's really upset or whatever it is, I ask you to really dive in and grieve and feel to heal and dive in, because prior to the diving in, we've always suppressed our feelings. We've covered it up. We've numbed ourselves up. It hasn't been okay to feel what we've been feeling. We haven't felt safe. We haven't felt to be in a safe place to do it. So we have a lot of catching up to do when it comes to that. And that is to really allow ourselves to grieve. And nobody can rush you through your grief. How long is it going to take? However long it takes for you.
However long it takes, and that's different for everybody.
So,
yeah. I was just, when you were saying that, I was remembering back times. You know how in childhood, maybe something happens and you're angry and you start to cry, and your parents say, "I'm going to give you something to cry about if you don't stop it." So I think we got messages early on in our younger years that it wasn't okay, that something was wrong with us if we were having an emotional feeling to, or an emotional reaction to things. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands, it's not that the feelings are wrong or bad or undesirable, but that they're indicators of something else that's going on deep within you. So in that, we can embrace anger, or we can embrace sadness or grief or whatever it is, for allowing us the opportunity to look deeper, to see deeper within and what's going on. Much like you used the anger at your roommate to discover that what was underlying all of that was powerlessness, right?
yeah.
So it's not that we're advocating not to feel those feelings, but we are saying, you don't want to react from those feelings.
Actually, you know what? Because here's the thing to freedom and liberation and emotional mastery, is that in order for you to be able to manifest the life that you want, and that is to live in peace, and that is to live in joy, put joy first, happiness, feeling good, manifesting the life that you want to manifest and how you want to live, you have got to be in a state of happiness and in a state of peace. And if there's anger in the way, then that has to be handled. That has to be dealt with. Yep. It has to be dealt with, because we are magnetic beings. We are magnetic beings, and emotions are magnetic and our thoughts are electric. So think about this. If you have a thought, an electric thought, a thought that's negative, that's attaching to an emotion, and if that's negative, that is exactly what it is that you're creating in your reality. That's what you're bringing into your reality. Now, look at it on the positive spin. On the positive spin, if you have a thought that is, I can do anything. I can manifest. I'm experiencing a breakthrough, and you actually feel that you feel peaceful and you feel happy and you feel in your joy. Now imagine that thought with that emotion, that feeling, what that's going to create instead of the negative. So the main thing is to always do that spiritual hygiene, and that is to clear your emotions and make sure. I talk about this to my clients, to my tribe, my online tribe. Always, always, always talk about clearing and feeling your emotions. Make sure that you're feeling good before you walk out of the door the next day. Get in your car, and before you go to work or before you go anyplace else, because it's your life. You are the center. You hold the key. You have the power. You have the control. Nobody else does. Nobody has the power and control over you. Only you do. You get to choose how you want to respond.
Yeah, exactly. I guess what we just want to have people avoid doing is squelching these things, these emotions, swallowing them down and pushing them further down, because it's not okay, they feel like, to feel them.
Right.
It's not okay to maybe spill them out at other people so much, but it is a legitimate emotional feeling but you've got to work with it, not swallow it down and keep pushing it away. The more you push it away, what you resist persists.
Exactly.
And if you don't deal with it, it's going to keep coming back at you because, like you said, it has magnetic properties to it. It's going to just keep drawing to you the people that are creating that, or the situations that create that anger for you. That matches that anger, that emotional feeling that you have.
Well, and then the same thing is if we don't take responsibility, because, that's another thing that I stand for is I stand for, this is what I've done for myself. I take responsibility for everything that shows up in my life, 100%. Everything that shows up, it's my responsibility to deal with it, whatever that is.
Good and bad, you're saying, right? Or good and not so good.
Everything. It's not, it's everything that I have a judgment about in the world. It's all a reflection within. It's a lot to take in, but we're talking about ascension and astrology here. And that's really about stepping into our mastery and taking responsibility for how we feel and how we respond. I think, was it Albert Einstein that said we can't solve the problems from the same consciousness that it was created? Well, I remember when I was writing my book on peace, I can't be one of those angry peace activists that I'm angry inside, but then I'm out there in the world talking peace, 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 everybody, but I haven't dealt with my own anger. So part of this whole thing is deal with your own anger, be the change that you want to see in the world, and be authentic with where you are. The main thing is clean your own inner garden, your own inner sanctuary. Make sure that you are feeling good about where you are.
Take out your own trash.
Yeah, take out your own trash, so pull those weeds, when you were talking about next year, 2020, it's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. Because, like you said, we are preparing ourselves as the months go by. And here we are halfway into 2019 now. We've got those, we've got the, what's next month? The solstice is coming up in June. And then we have the equinox. There's also, eclipses, right?
Yeah, July's eclipses.
Yeah. So this is all big stuff. But part of what I wanted to say right now with all of this is, we're getting ready to do a summit, an online summit. Janet is one of the 11 master speakers on the summit. And the summit is, when is that? On June 11th and this begins at 11 a.m. on June 11th. And what we're talking about really is how to navigate the changes, the upcoming changes that we're all being faced with. Because right now, we are at the greatest history of change ever, with climate change, with artificial intelligence, with the way that we do business, with our online world, with so many changes, that it's important that we live in our emotional mastery and being able to navigate the waters with how to ride these waves and how to ride these currents. But part of why we're putting on the summit, this free online event, is to offer people the tools that want the tools. And we have the most amazing, dynamic change makers on the planet that are going to be offering free tools and free support to help you navigate these times. So I'm super excited about putting this on. I'm the event facilitator, and I'm also a speaker in the event. So it's going to be really, really exciting about this amazing catalyst for change that we're experiencing. And I want to tell people, do not be afraid of change, because this is the only constant that is true right now. We don't want the way it's been. We want the change, and we have to be able to have the courage and be willing to embrace change, right? And like Zig Ziglar said, he says, you can weather any storm with the right attitude. And I like that part, with the right attitude. And then what about the right feelings? With the right feelings, now just think, if you're feeling strong, like I'm feeling strong. Janet, you're feeling strong. We're feeling strong about the changes that are up ahead, right? So now this is going to ripple out and other people are going to feel strong and like that. And that's because we're doing this work and we're supporting each other. And this is how we can all rise together into a greater whole.
Absolutely. So what I've put up there for everyone is the website for the Change Your Mind Summit. It is changeyourmind.us. Don't put a www in front of it. That creates havoc. So just go to changeyourmind.us. You can sign up there.
Free.
The summit is free. And that means you have 11 brilliant women's minds that you have access to with their tools and their wisdom, and all for free. So, I mean, what's not to like about that?
We're going to have so many wonderful conversations because we have a diverse group. I was talking about that to someone today. We're going to be talking about meditation. We're going to be talking about sleep. We're going to be talking about starting where you are, just being okay right now. We're going to be talking about new and full moon rituals. We're going to be talking about letting go of the dependency of your mind and leading from your heart, right? We're going to be talking about how to do business in the new way. And we're going to be talking about God. So this is going to be so exciting for all of us to come together and just be able to talk about the way to change your mind and to do it easily and effortlessly and not resist change. Because that's another thing, Janet, is that not to keep ourselves disconnected from the change, but to actually invite it in, just the same way that we would invite in the storm or whatever it is, to feel it, to heal it and clear it, to bring it in and go, what is it that I want to change in my life? Because really change is meant to release you from your past. It's meant to release you from your past, and it's meant to bring you something different in your life today. But most people, guess what they do? They rebel against it, they sabotage themselves, and they resist change. When all we're trying to do is invite you now to ride that current and say, I'm all in. I'm all in for change, because you know what? What's the alternative?
Stagnancy. And you know what? Change is the only, what do they say? Change and taxes are the only two, death and taxes change. It's the only constant, right? Things just don't stay the same. They change. And it's our emotional reaction to that change that really makes us either feel good about it or get into resistance around it. I mean, I think sometimes we're just sort of creatures of habit. We get comfortable where we are, and we don't feel like change is something that we want or that it's desirable. But let me tell you, change is upon us.
I want to read you this one quote, Janet, that you're going to absolutely love. Change is upon us. And here's the thing, it's not about being comfortable anymore, because we have to get uncomfortable and be willing to be uncomfortable so that that the change can happen, because we're beyond the comfort zone now. It's beyond that time, because you're just going to keep getting that pulse to change up. And you don't want a wake up call in a way to where it's like something's going to hit you up the side of your head. You don't want that. Sometimes that's what people need, but it doesn't have to be that way. But here's what Cynthia Broad says. Listen to this. In times of change, it is the learners who will inherit the earth, while the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists.
Wow. Well, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Isn't that profound?
Yeah. So we all want to be learners.
Yes.
We all want to be embracing what's happening and co-creating with it and not against it.
Yes.
Right? It's no matter what, you're a part of it. So you either be a volunteer or you can stay as a victim.
Exactly. And that's the whole point when we're releasing powerlessness from the anger. We are not victims. Release your anger. Here's what the thing is that there's so many people that have every right to be angry about the injustices that are going on in the world, but use it as the catalyst. I'm angry and I'm pissed off about that. What are you releasing? What are you letting go of now? What is it that you want?
Right.
because don't stand in the victim stance for too long. Now, there's a time to be a victim. Sometimes it just depends on where you are in your clearing process or in your work. But I have found myself on occasion to totally dive deep into the victim. And I would just dive into that victim consciousness, and I would really feel what it feels like. I cannot do anything. I am a victim here, and woe is me, and whatever. And I would wallow in that for like a couple days to stay in that victim energy. And then when I've had my victim time and I was ready to retire the victim and rise up like the phoenix from the ashes, like the empowered, badass creator that I am, I'm going to rise up and I'm going to do something about it. Not, in a negative way, but in an empowering way. That's something that I'm passionate about, that I will take a stand for in my life, that I will not, that I won't let shit slide by, if you will.
Yeah. So we have quite a few people out there making comments, but here's what I would love to hear from the people who are out there listening. What are your emotional struggles right now? What are you in possibly in an emotional reaction to? What are your triggers? I just kind of want to get a feeling for what's going on with people out there in the wider world. Right now, today, it's such a beautiful day. It's hard to connect with anything that's ugly or emotional or traumatic for me personally. So hopefully we can get some ideas of what's going on with other people and how can we transition them from that emotion to one that's more powerful for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In the meantime, let's just see. We've got a Jacqueline out there. Hello, Jacqueline. Yoli. And she says, we are all ascending. Indeed. Vanita, good afternoon. She says, response-able. Responsible, the word responsible as response-able. Michelle Gay, hello. And Camille, good afternoon to you. And hopefully everybody is connecting with what it is that we're saying here. I don't think there can't be a person on the planet that doesn't know or feel emotion. Whether it is a happy emotion, joy, pleasure, excitement, or whether it is anger, upset, disgust, or whatever other types of feelings that there are out there. But let us know what you're feeling. In the meantime, something interesting happened for me today, and I ended up on somebody's mailing list, and it was called Desire Mapping. Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
I don't know how this landed in my inbox, but it did. And the first thing she tells us in the class is to get a read on your emotions, right? Because if desire is an emotion. It's one of many around, wanting to get something or to do something.
Is it Danielle Porta? Danielle Laporta?
Yeah, Danielle Laporte.
Yep. Okay, I have heard of it.
Yeah. So this morning, as I was working through some of this, she talks about, first of all, how do you perceive your reality, right? So she has us go through, if I were a flower, I'd be blank. Describe that flower. And how would you describe that flower? And if I were a dessert, I'd be, and then describe that dessert. And if I were a vacation, I would be. So we go through all of these different things, essentially as a way to tap into the feelings that you have that are on the high end, right? What is the core emotion that you are vibrating to? Then, because I haven't been able to do this over the last couple of days, I ended up doing 3 lessons in one. And the third one was what's not working. And here she, talks about diving into what are you dissatisfied about? What are you frustrated by? What are you disappointed in? What are you agitated with? What are you suffering from? And of course, she has questions that lead us into that as well. But I thought it was interesting how easy it was for me to do the negative side, the part that I recognized very readily, the part where I'm feeling frustrated or where anger lies, and how much more difficult it was to come up with the good feeling one. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was almost like, I can pay lip service to joy and excitement and pleasure, but when it really comes down to it, am I even allowing those words, those feelings into my core?
I think, are you allowing the feelings to match with the thoughts? Like, are you allowing the thought to match with the feelings? Because like you said, you can give lip service, but are you allowing the feelings to match with the words and to really feel those feelings that you were desiring, the flowery feeling, the beautiful feelings, the joyful feelings. And, it goes back to we have been born, raised, and conditioned in our subconscious mind of not enough, not good enough, shame, betrayal, and abandonment. Those have been our subconscious upbringing. And that's what we are releasing and letting go so that we can reprogram the subconscious with the truth. Because to reprogram the subconscious with the truth of, I am worthy, I am confident, I am love, I am happy, I am joy, I am love, I am abundant, I am prosperous. And that's the truth. All the other things that are in the subconscious that don't reflect that is all stuff that needs to be unveiled.
Story.
Yeah, that's it.
So here's what people are saying. Jacqueline says, I get frustrated when my technology does not work properly. Mm-hmm. So do I. Camille says, joy in an unexpected consequence today. I've been saying, well played, universe, well played.
Nice.
I love that. Patricia says, I always try to be honest with friends and at the same time not offend them. But a friend got really angry at me and defensive and is not talking to me when I showed her blind spots and how they bothered me. I really was trying to be as gentle as possible, but her ego was striking out at me. Now I'm angry because I feel like I just can't win.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. That's really good. What would you say to that, Janet?
A couple of things come to mind, just strictly from an astrological standpoint, typically human design. Did you have permission to speak that to that person? Or was it a projection of your own stuff onto that person that drove you to point out her blind spots? And I'm always suspicious, even in my own self, when I'm ready to throw stuff out there and blame the universe, blame my husband, blame, even blaming astrology for, Mercury retrograde causing, havoc. What am I really doing? Am I really taking responsibility for my own self here? I don't know that it is our job. I don't know the situation, Patricia, so please don't mistake what I'm saying here. But I'm always suspicious in my own self when I'm wanting to blurp on somebody else and tell them how bad they're being or their own blind spots without their permission to do it. We are courting sort of that response that your friend has. And then, of course, your own matching anger. So
now let's assume that she got permission.
Yeah, so there was defensiveness, and ideally what she seems to have been doing was, saying her own truth about what bothers her with this person. So, there's her truth, there's defensiveness, being gentle, ego, and now her own anger.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit complicated because, again, what's the history between the two of you? How long do you guys go back? What kind of relationship is it? It's, all these things are really up on the table because you already know that this person is defensive and the ego, and they're coming back at you from defending themselves. And whenever we defend ourselves, we know what that is about. But let's assume that you got permission to share and point out this person's
I
blind
think that
spot.
may be true because she says she and I always talk about showing each other blind spots.
Okay.
So
Well,
it feels like that's possibly true.
yeah. So maybe the person just can't receive it, you know, that you pointed that out, and she feels attacked, or she feels whatever that is, you know. But if you guys had this agreement already, if it was a she's giving you permission, then that makes it tricky. You know, I too have a person that when we would have communications, sometimes she would get triggered by what I would say, and she didn't know how to process her feelings around it. So, you know, that's a tricky time. So I understand how that can be. But you, in your heart of hearts, you already know what to do. So the best thing right now is to release your own anger. Don't walk around with your anger. You know, maybe do some practice of the Ho'oponopono and see your part in this also, and practice the forgiveness. Forgive yourself, right? And kind of let it go, and offer forgiveness, and then take yourself into a good feeling state, and and see what happens from there. Is that helpful?
Well, we'll see what she says, but I find that helpful. It's great because we have these two tools, gratitude and forgiveness, that are there for us in dealing with emotions, even though, you know, in some cases you could say gratitude is also an emotion, but it helps us remember to be thankful for everything that is going on, because it's all to our benefit. Even if it is anger, even if it is upset, there is something there for us it's there to our benefit. And in our relationships with one another, when we are triggered by one another, that's to our benefit as well. Even though it may not feel like it in the moment, it's definitely there for us to look at what's going on deeper within us.
And I mean, think about it right now, everybody. Last week was that full moon in Scorpio. And I tell you, everything that was underneath those waters on the bottom of the ocean is coming up to the surface so it can be handled and dealt with. It's, you know, the sun is shining the light on all those jewels, on all the shadow parts, on all the parts that we get to see, and we get to love free. I personally, in my sphere of influence this past week, actually was attacked. I was attacked by someone, and the beautiful thing is I held my space, and they were able to then see it and then apologize. But not everybody has that much humility, right? Because that's really what it takes. Is, wow, I'm sorry I did that, you know, and they can apologize, which is a big deal.
Yeah. Now, you know, let's talk about something else that I don't even know how to quite frame this, except that sometimes in our frustration or our anger or our upset, we bounce anger or our frustration out on other people. Like, for example, yesterday, you and I we play Marco Polo, which is a video chat back and forth, but it's like a walkie-talkie. And I was really frustrated about something, and I expressed that quite clearly. But I did that because I know it's a safe place for me to do that with. Everybody needs to have that. Don't you think that there's something, you know, rather I'm not throwing that anger out at you, except that I'm expressing my own anger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you weren't expressing it towards me. You were expressing your frustration with where you were at. And you were just like, here's where I am. And boom, you know, and then you just said everything. And that's great. And because no judgment here, you get to have your feelings. You get to say exactly what you want to say, and you get to be exactly where you are. And I can hold that space because we have this understanding.
Yeah.
Then that makes it great, right?
Yeah, and I think everybody needs to have that safe space with someone. And so Patricia, maybe you and this friend, even though right now maybe there's this angry point, or maybe you hit a raw nerve with that person, the fact that you have someone like that you can go back and forth with is so helpful, because otherwise sometimes you lose insight. You lose, you get a blind spot about what it is that you're hitting up against. Although,
by all means, Patricia, do not hold the anger in your body. Bottom
right,
line. It's so powerful. It's so powerful right now. Like I said, it's causing a lot of physical problems for people that are holding it. And that energy is so powerful. It goes towards your organs. And like I said, it creates back pain. It does all kinds of things.
Yeah. She says, I'm likely more sad than angry, which is, that's still an emotion, a powerful emotion. And
because you feel sad that because you love your friend, and you're sad because right now you're losing the connection. You're grieving the connection with your friend because she's being defensive, and you guys can't go on the way you want to go on. So I totally understand being sad about that, because yeah.
No one else has offered up any other emotional things that they're going through. I love the one that Camille said, though, about joy. Well played, universe. Well played.
Absolutely. I love that.
Well played, universe. It's like, I think in a way that's like, yes, that's awesome. I want more of that, right? Bring me more of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's really actually the key. Is really, really pretty simple right now, being a human on this planet. And that is this. Try to move into a feeling good state every single moment of every single day. Be in that feeling good statement. And if you cannot be, and if you're triggered and you're not feeling good, clear it out as fast as you can, within reason, allow yourself to grieve and to process and all that, but move that emotion out and get back into the feeling good state. So it's basically surrender and let go, surrender, release and let go, and then get to feeling happy. Surrender, release and let go, and get to feeling happy, and move into the present now moment, the only moment that we have, and be delighted that we're alive and that we're here, and that we are building and co-creating a new world together. How fun.
Chanel says, how do we release anger so it doesn't bleed into our bodies, or once our body starts to show symptoms?
Exactly. So recently, one of my clients held the anger and put it in their foot. And so they couldn't walk. They couldn't walk. They were so upset.
Did they consciously do that?
They didn't say to themselves, I'm now going to hold anger and put it in my foot. But when it came to me, because they're one of those kinds of people, Janet, that on the surface, they always have that happy face, and they're always, everything is fine and everything is great. But suddenly you're limping. So my intuitive abilities, and I'm like, you've got anger and you're holding anger in your foot. I never see you get pissed off. I never see you get angry. So anyway, that's what it ended up being, is anger stored in the foot. And then when we got to the bottom of it, talking to, who is it? Chanel that you were talking to right now? Chanel?
Yeah. Chanel,
one of the ways to get anger out is maybe go in your car and take a drive and scream from your core, get it out, go to the woods, or go into your spiritual anger management room in your house and get it out of your body. Scream, get it out, scream into a pillow, punch something, like not someone, a pillow.
Not someone, but a pillow.
Get the anger out of your body and let it out, like rage, like howl, get it out. And then once it's out, you're going to sit there and you're going to feel a little bit exhausted, because that energy just ran through your body. You're most likely going to start crying, and then take a look and see how you feel then. But that is really pretty much the way to get anger out, because it's like, how some people, when they're angry, they start a fist fight. And the reason why they start a fist fight is because they are using the anger to push it out, because the anger has to get out. But we don't want to fist fight. We don't want to harm anyone, not with physical, and certainly not with bullying and emotion, with verbal. So we don't want to do either of those, but we need to get the anger out of our body, that create a fuel, and then go underneath it and find out what it is that you're really angry about.
What is the real trigger, right? What's the real upset? What does it remind you of? And usually, Kornelia, isn't it something from the past often, like a slight in childhood, or the way you were treated as a child, and it's being stored in your body somewhere, and an outer world something or another happens and it triggers that wound.
Exactly.
And, so it's never really what it is that we think it is in the moment.
And it's never the person. The person that pisses you off, or the person that's the catalyst, is basically kind of coming along and it's going, okay, let me press that button. And they press that button on you. And then boom, it's like all of a sudden something gets activated within you that had been stored in your body for a long time. And now it's a perfect opportunity to be released. That's why anytime when you get pissed off about something, let it out. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
And there's lots of different ways, depending on the person, that you can do that. Some people, like me, when I get angry, I am often out walking, or I go down to the water. The water tends to just take it all out of me. Like it's just maybe it's just I don't know, the peacefulness of the water, maybe, I don't know. Or writing sometimes. I have
done that. Piece. Yeah. Journaling is a huge piece.
Yeah. You can say whatever it is that's there without hurting anybody, and you can, I don't know, I've gained such insights by doing that throughout the course of my life. So, there's many different ways. Some people, physical exercise, right? The actual, get out and do karate, or, go to the gym and do a punching bag or something like that can really be helpful, but it's different for everybody. You have to do what works for you.
Janet, I want to tell everybody about my podcast tomorrow. I have a brand new co-host tomorrow that I'm bringing on my show called Lady Boss. So the way that you can watch that show is you can go to my Facebook page, Kornelia Stephanie, or you can download your favorite podcast app, and you can type in Kornelia Stephanie, and you'll get the podcast. It's at 12 noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or go to Transformation Talk Radio in Seattle at the online Transformation Talk Radio on online, and you can get the show tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm bringing on Dana Tarot, and Dana Tarot's message is handle the lump. So basically,
I saw that on Facebook today.
Isn't that awesome? Handle the lump. So basically, she had a breast removed, and is a mother, young daughter, and all of a sudden, got the diagnosis that she had breast cancer. And so we're going to be telling her story on the podcast tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about how she dealt with this as a young mother, as a single young mother.
Oh, wow.
On how she's dealing with this. And it's a powerful, powerful story. So I really invite everyone to come on and listen to the story and be inspired by such an amazing woman that is taking the world by storm. I mean, she's going all out to heal, and she's not laying down, because what she's planning on doing is leaving a legacy for her daughter that is absolutely how to be the leading lady in your own life. And it's a really powerful story.
I like that, how to be the leading lady in your own life. So a couple of comments here. Sarah says, I'm frustrated with the new spiritual wavelength with people in my life. It makes me more upset that I have a harder time of connecting or feeling fulfilled in my current environment. Then she goes on to say, I have someone I love that moved miles away and made issues harder with the home. He's visited me in my dreams, and we aren't talking currently, but my readings match what my dreams are making me feel. I feel in a place of helplessness because he's in a stage of cloudy upset in his life. It almost sounds, Sarah, like you're taking on someone else's pain or someone else's struggle. Is that right? Vanita, Karate is a great way for letting out. Loud vocalizations and hitting or kicking heavy bags or breaking boards. I forgot, Vanita, you've studied karate a lot in your life. Jacqueline says, this friend told me I was too caught up in my emotions, but his advice was not worth listening to for many reasons. I think people really are dealing with this. I think we triggered something here, Kornelia.
Yeah, I think we're going to come back again next week, and we'll continue the conversation until it feels that we no longer need to talk about it. But I think that now moving into being in Mars and Cancer and being in our emotions, the person that was talking about helplessness, remember that you are not helpless. You can choose right now in this moment to release helplessness. You're just feeling this, but shift your mindset into a place of looking for people that are resonating with you on that frequency, people that match you and that want to be with you. With all of that, I want to leave you all with this wonderful quote. And let's see, where did I put it? Do we still have time, Janet?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Let me see. Where's that quote? Goodness gracious, I had it up here. Here it is. When I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of stress and anxiety. If I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me without pain. From this, I understand that what I want also wants me.
Ooh, I like it.
Also wants me. There is a great secret here for anyone who can grasp it, and this is by Rumi. So if you can take the mantra that what I want also wants me, boom, that's it.
That's it. We don't even need to discuss anything more.
Nope, that's it.
Right?
Yep.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being with us today. By the way, next week, Kornelia, you're going to have Donna Blevins on the show with you, as I'm going to be playing field trip grandma and going to the zoo with my granddaughter.
How fun is that going to be?
I'm so excited to do that. I can't even tell you. I went to the zoo with her older brother when he was her age, and we had a blast. I dropped my camera in the wolf's den, and this little Japanese man jumped over the fence for me and got my camera. So I have these memories of these trips with kids and having the weirdest things happen. So I'm really looking forward to that. But you and Donna are likely going to be talking about the connection between the mind and emotions, perhaps, right?
Yep, we're going to keep definitely going to bring the mind into it, and we'll definitely keep the conversation on emotions going.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone have a great evening. Thank you so much, Kornelia. Your wisdom, as ever, is so much appreciated.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Lagging.
Do you know